Hey everyone, welcome to Great Lakes Church. My name is Carson, and I gotta tell you before we get into our weekly message that we're a community of people helping people find and follow Jesus. We're based out of Southeast Wisconsin. We have physical locations in Kenosha and Racine, but if you're listening to this or watching this, you've found our online presence. We share content on our YouTube and our podcast platforms wherever you listen, and we love that you're a part. If you want to know more about what's going on here at Great Lakes Church, you can find out more at greatlakeschurch.com or check out our central hub. But until then, everything you need is going to be in the description, so enjoy the message, and we'll catch you next time.
Hey, I think before we jump into the last talk of this series, it'd probably be really good to pray for that Guatemala team. I got to tell you, I've been around Great Lakes now for about 3 months, and every single time I walk in here, I fall more in love with the heart of this place. My first week here was us sending everybody off to RFK. A couple weeks later, it was sending a team off to Africa. A couple of weeks later, we're sending a team off to Guatemala. It's amazing. Honduras, I'm sorry. Weren't we just talking about Guatemala? No? Why was I talking about Guatemala? Anyway, we should pray right now. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for a community that cares bigger than themselves. Thank you for these people who are selfless enough and like you enough that they give in the ways that they do to make things like this team going possible. And I'm so grateful for individuals who are willing to take time away from their families and from their jobs to go and minister to possibly the next president of that country. That is insane to think about, but it's exactly the kind of story you love to tell. So thank you for letting us be part of it. Thank you so much. And we just ask that you would protect that team as they travel, help it to all go smoothly, and all that they have planned and how they're going to help down there. I just pray that you'd keep them healthy and that it would go well, and that when they come home, we would be supportive to them in helping them reacclimate to home. And Lord, we just look forward to hearing all the stories of what you are already doing, but you're going to do in their few days down there. We love you so much. Amen. I was thinking about something this week that somebody weird like me would think about. So I thought about it for you, because you're not weird. I thought about the games that you can't really play by yourself. Like, there's a number of them. There's a few that are specifically designed where you kind of compete against yourself, but there's other ones, it just doesn't work so well if you don't have somebody to play that game with. For example, dodgeball. That's just kind of weird. If you're the person standing in the middle of a gym with a series of dodgeballs and no one to throw them at, it's uncomfortable for everyone, right? Dodgeball, you have to have another person. You can't play that game by yourself. I thought of another one. You can't play rock, paper, scissors by yourself either. You're going to be the person that's like, you're never going to beat yourself. They're going to lock you up. That's what's going to happen because you're trying to do something on your own that is impossible. Another one that it makes me sad is playing hide and seek by yourself. I mean, I know some of us are introverts and that sounds really good, like I'll hide all the time. But if you're playing the game, you can't really play it by yourself. And ping pong, we've been talking a lot about ping pong for the last few weeks. You can't play that by yourself either. It requires a person on each end of the table. Now, you could maybe figure out a way to play those on your own, but it's not going to be the game. You might be playing a version of the game, but it's not going to be the game, right? And what I want us to understand for the next few minutes, to kind of process through together, is this thing that we've been talking about for weeks isn't a solo act either. Peace is not a solo act. I'm convinced more than ever you can't actually have peace of mind on your own. One of the reasons that I think ping pong works as an illustration is because it requires someone to be on the other side of that table. And as we wrap up our discussion about peace of mind, I want to encourage you with this idea. It requires someone on the other end of the table. I don't think that I nor you can have peace of mind on our own. And you might be sitting there going, but wait a minute. That's kind of the thing, right? Like we're trying to attain it on our own. Every time you turn on, the Oprah channel now, it's not the Oprah show, or you open a book or you see a cover on the magazine because they still put those when you check out at Target, right? You can read the cover, and oftentimes it's like you can have peace of mind by buying this thing, which tells you you can't get it on your own. And they know you can't get it on your own. I looked on Amazon. You would not believe how many items are available to you for peace of mind. Here's just a few examples. There are planners that are guaranteed to give you peace of mind. Tons and tons of books. You can buy oils. I'm not meaning to offend essential oil people. I know it's a big deal. But, they tell you if you just put this oil all over your body, don't get it in your eye, because then you won't have peace of mind. But there's word searches. Diets, incense, apps, retreats, security cameras, which is not really it's going to give you peace of mind because you're afraid, but is that really peace of mind? Because now you're going to sit at work all day looking at the camera. What? Puzzles, they don't give me peace of mind. You can buy rocks that give you peace of mind, candles, and 20,000 or more items. Here's what Amazon is telling you. You don't got it in you. You need something else. You need an outside kind of thing. And Amazon is not wrong. This is what I want you to know. Peace of mind doesn't come from within you, and you can't have it without him. True peace of mind, you can't generate it. You aren't strong enough. You aren't smart enough. You aren't grown enough. You aren't righteous enough. I don't think you can just flood yourself with peace of mind. But I do believe when you invite God to the other side of the table and you get into this rhythm of sending his way all of your worry, your anxiety, your struggles, your battles, all of those kinds of things, you start to experience it from him. Let me show you what I mean. We've started this whole thing in one of Paul's letters to a bunch of Christians in Philippi called the book of Philippians in your Bible. And this is what Paul says. It's the most troubling sentence to me when he says, don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. And then he starts to break that down for us, which I am grateful for. He says, tell God what you need. Sounds really simple enough, right? Only if you are like me, you don't tell God a whole lot. You sell God a lot. There's a difference between telling and selling, isn't there? This is how I pray often. God, I really need this, and here's why. Because if you were to just do this thing for me, then I would be able to do this thing for you. And God, you wouldn't believe how effective I would be as a pastor, as a leader, as a communicator, if you just took care of this little thing that I've been worried about. If I didn't have that on my mind, then imagine, God, what I could do for you. We sell God on that all the time. God, if you just help me win the lottery, I promise I'll give 10% to the church, right? God, if you will just help me get a raise at work, then I promise I'll spend more time with my kids and less time at work, because then I don't have to work as much, right? We try and convince him that our line of thinking should be his line of thinking, instead of just going, God, I know you love me. I know you want more for me than worry, so here's what I need. Because my kids don't sell me on why they should get a bag of chips between meals. They just say, Dad, can I have a bag of chips? I need a bag of chips. I'm hungry. And that's the end of the discussion, right? We don't need to sell God anything. We don't need to beat around the bush. Now, I was thinking about this term, and I realized I have no idea what it means. I have no idea where it came from. But we have the World Wide Web at our fingertips, so I looked it up. Do you know where beat around the bush comes from? The Germans. German hunters in particular, they would go out and they would send their hunting partners, their workers out into the foliage, into the woods, and wherever they thought that the thing they were hunting was hiding, they would bring big sledgehammers and shovels and they would pound on the ground around the bush, but not on the bush for two reasons. Number one, they didn't want to injure the thing that they were hunting. They wanted it to run out of the bush so that the hunter could then injure the thing. They wanted to protect it for a minute. But bigger than that, there was a chance that there would be bees or a wild boar or a dangerous snake, as was mentioned, that could come out of that bush then and harm the workers. So it was better to make noise around the bush, not be direct on it, and get this thing to come out. You like convince it out or coerce it out. And we do this with God, right? It's hard for us to be direct because he's God. And it's just easier if I kind of pound around the idea and hopefully he gets it. Hopefully he picks up what I'm laying down and he blesses me, right? But Paul says it doesn't need to be that way. When you pray, just tell him what you need. Just tell him. And here's the beauty of that as I've been thinking about the moments where I've actually been able to do it. There's something I'm going to call recognition relief. That moment where you can go, I told him, he knows, and I don't have to pretend anymore. I don't have to play games anymore. I've just put it out there. You have this happen in your relationships with other people, right? You've been dreading for so long. You know you need to tell them the thing, but you haven't told them the thing, and when you finally tell them the thing, you just feel better. It's that idea of getting something off our chest, right? I just need to get this off my chest. And with God, we sometimes need to go, God, I just got to get this off my chest. And I'm going to experience, even in that moment, a slight bit of peace of mind because I don't have it sitting on my chest anymore. I'm not exhausted trying to get him to figure it out. I've just told him. There's something to that. There's something to that kind of peace of mind. Now, here's what's important. Paul says, tell him, but he says, tell him what you need. And we know there's a difference between needing and wanting, right? A big difference. Now, here's the struggle. The two are kind of related. Needing, we would say, is essential. It's definitely, gotta have it because you can't really do life without it. But somewhere along the line, we can convince ourselves that what we want is essential, that what we want is a need. And here's where I experience this most. Now, I don't want to name names, so I'm just going to, it's a place that might rhyme with Old Scone Dreamery. And when I go in there, they have 3 sizes. And they're not small, medium, and large. They're like it, love it. There's some people that have been there too. Gotta have it. It's this weird scale, right? Like it, love it, gotta have it. And the gotta have it is huge. I mean, it's a gallon of ice cream when you get it. And it illustrates to me exactly how it works. We start with this thing that I like. Eventually, we begin to love it, and then we've convinced ourselves, well, I just got to have it, and it's bigger than it was. It's turned into this need that we think is essential for us to make it through the day. And I'll tell you, there are a lot of days where that's what I'm going to God with. This thing that I'd like to have, but I've convinced myself I got to have. Because the more we like something, the more we think we've got to have it. And then what's weird is I get mad at God when he doesn't give me the thing that I wanted, but he never promised to give me everything that I wanted. He promises to give me what I need. So we have to be careful. And it's not that we shouldn't go to him honestly and openly. And I think we just need to trust that he knows the difference between a gotta have it and a thing that you actually need. And so sometimes I'm sure that when I go to God praying about my worries, praying about my anxieties, praying about my struggles in life, he's helping me curate. I think of it like this. He's helping me curate to the crucial. He's helping me figure it out, well, what is it that I actually need? Because if you and I thought about it long enough, we could probably survive on less money than we make. We could probably survive on less food than we have in our cabinets. We could probably make it with a few less hours at work. We could probably make it with a few days shorter vacation. And so sometimes when God comes back with a no or not yet, it's just him helping us get down to the things that we need so that we're not stressed out about all of these things that we're convinced we need but are really just wants. Maybe sometimes the reason you and I don't have peace of mind is because we've put too many things into the circle in the center. And we think they're essential to life. And God goes, not so much. I can help you have peace of mind, but it's going to require some sorting out. And then Paul goes on. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank him for all he's done. Thank him for all he's done. Now, at first glance, that can seem a little weird. Wait a minute, I thought we were talking about going to God with what we need, and now we're talking to him about what he's done, and we're being grateful, and it shouldn't surprise us. Because now neuroscience is actually telling us, as they study our brains and how we operate, that we're doing better in life the more grateful we are. By the way, one of the peace of mind journals that I found on Amazon was actually a gratitude journal. The whole idea was just every day you write down 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for. And the promise is that that will offer you peace of mind. And so when Paul says, as you're praying about the things that you need, express the things that you're grateful for. And in that act alone, you might start to experience a little bit more peace of mind. Here's what the science is telling us. It's these 2 chemicals that your brain is constantly cranking out in your body, dopamine and cortisol. Now, dopamine is the pleasure chemical. This is when we're excited and we feel good and you find yourself wanting more of that something. Cortisol is a stress hormone. It's what gets released when we go into fight or flight and we're trying to protect ourselves. It's usually when we're worried. That's when we feel it the most. And the more our brains are charged up or fully charged on dopamine, there's kind of a level that our brains and body want to work at, the more peace of mind we actually feel. And gratitude helps us generate dopamine in our body. And it changes how we feel. It's really amazing that God would encourage us to do something that he designed our bodies to respond to. And what happens is as we forget to be grateful and our stores of dopamine start to dwindle and they get low, this is when we start to release the cortisol. We start to freak out because we don't feel good about things. And so we have to constantly be charging the battery back up. So this is why Paul would say, okay, if you want peace of mind, if you don't want to worry about anything and you're coming to God, in that you need to regularly be thanking him for all that he's done for you, because that's going to charge you up. You know who else understands how our bodies work, how this works? TikTok. Man, they get us. Because you watch one video and it's funny. When the cat fell off the top of the refrigerator and you laughed, you got a dopamine hit. And you're like, I wanted more of that. That felt good. Swipe. That one was good too. Swipe, and you're getting these hits of dopamine over and over again. You actually become dependent on it. You become addicted to it. And so you keep going back. I've done it. I'm just being honest with you. Please don't think less of me. There have been days where I've gone home not feeling great about life. And the first thing I thought was, I'm getting on TikTok. And 2 hours later, I'm the guy that had the video that came up where the guy was like, you've been scrolling for a long time. Maybe time to go get something to eat. That's how bad it is, because they've figured out how we work. It's why everybody's on social media. So Paul, all these centuries ago, says, listen, if you want peace of mind where you're feeling good about life, here's the key: be grateful. And then when worries start to roll, the more you do that and worries start to roll into your life again, you'll have this muscle memory where, like I did with TikTok, or we might do with food or with exercise or with shopping, those things that make us feel better, we start going right to being grateful. I'm worried about this thing. Let me write down a few things. Let me sit with God for a few minutes about the things that he's done for me already. We might even start to do that before we ask him for what it is that we need. We just get, God, I just want to tell you, I'm so thankful for this thing that happened yesterday. I'm so thankful for this conversation that I was a part of at lunch. I'm so thankful that I got time with so-and-so yesterday. I'm so thankful that my boss let me get out early. And I recognize that all good things come from you. So thank you. Wouldn't it be amazing if all of a sudden we were starting to learn as a reflex to be grateful when life throws us a curveball? Man, I'd be really, really different as a person. And it wouldn't be because I figured out how to shut something off. It's because I learned how to replace something with something better. And I started going to God and saying, you're good all the time. So here's how Paul wraps this thought up. And it goes in a direction that I didn't see coming. Maybe you predicted it. We'll see. Then you will experience. When you do that, when you go to God with your stuff, when you say, God, I know you want more for me than worry, and so I'm sending this thing your way, and here's how I'm grateful for what you've already done for me, then there's an order here. He says, then you will experience not peace of mind, but God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. The peace that God offers you is better than anything you could imagine that we would fit into the peace of mind category. There's a difference between God's peace and our mind's peace. You have ideas of what your mind's peace would be. I don't know that we really want peace of mind as much as we want a mind that's at peace, like in the state of peace regularly. And here Paul says, if you want to experience something that's going to blow your mind, not give your mind peace, you can experience God's peace. And it's really simple. You don't even have to be a super Christian. And if you've never gone to church before, it's okay. If you don't know a single Bible verse, that's fine. You can go to God with what you need. Tell him what you're worried about. Thank him for the ways he's taken care of you and loved you. And then you experience God's peace. I guess tomorrow night, there's going to be a super blue moon. I didn't know the moon could change colors, but evidently this is a big deal. But you know this, the moon cannot generate its own light. I know there are some people now in this world who think that it does. But it requires an outside source to illuminate it. Right? It's not it doesn't have a power plant at its core that's making it light up. It's the sun that's also hanging up there in the stars with it. And when the sun shines on the moon from the other side of our planet, that's when we can see it. And sometimes the earth blocks the sun, and creates the shadow, and that's why the moon looks the way it does, which is just proof that the moon is not lighting itself up, it's getting lit up. And I think this is how peace of mind is. Your brain is a big rock. Mine too. And it can't do it on its own. It needs exterior illumination. That's how we'll experience real, lasting, true peace. When we get it from an outside source, it makes all of the difference. Right? It's kind of like a river. When the river feeds into the lake or it feeds into the pond doesn't have to generate its own water. It has the water brought to it, which has just made me really think. When we talk about peace like a river, that's what I was told God's peace is like. It's like a river. I always think of like the peaceful flowing river in the middle of the woods and you can hear the birds chirping. I wonder if it's better than that. The peace like a river is the peace that's given to you. It's brought to you. And you experience life differently, not because you figured it out, not because you generated it, not because you hauled bucket after bucket after bucket of water and filled up a lake, but because God just gave it. You were humble enough to say, I need it. I'm worried about X, Y, or Z, and God, I just need your peace. Peace of mind doesn't come from within you, and you can't have it without him. It's maybe a bait and switch. You maybe came because you saw peace of mind, and we kind of talked about it in terms of like, we're going to help you find it, but it's not going to be in you. That's the twist. You don't have it. I don't have it. But he does. He does. And here's the cool part. When you experience his peace, it guards your hearts and your minds as you live in Christ Jesus. Now, real quick, why does Paul mention the heart? I mean, we're after peace of mind. There's a difference between heart and mind, right? Those aren't the same, are they? If I asked you, what is our heart? Some of you would say very technically it's the muscle that pumps the blood. Others of us would say it's the emotional center of who we are. It's how we feel things. What we don't always recognize is how we feel things is directed by how we think about things. It's kind of like how your eyes dictate the direction of your body. Have you ever noticed this? Where you might be driving down the road and you look at that thing off to the side of the road, and before you know it, your car is drifting in that way. This happened to me when I was 13 years old and I was riding my bike down the street in my neighborhood. I was minding my own business when out of the corner of my eye, I saw her. Now, I wanted it to be cool. I didn't want to turn and look and, heaven forbid, say, what's up, or anything like that. I just wanted to side-eye her. What I didn't realize at that young age was that the longer I side-eyed her, the more my bike began to veer off the road. Now, I wasn't smart enough to look back every once in a while. I only had a few seconds. And those seconds ended abruptly when I hit her mailbox. Yep, I ran right into her mailbox. I had a very horrible moment because I didn't realize that my eyes directed my body, which had results, had consequences. That's where I ended up. It was mortifying, and I didn't say anything. I didn't look anymore. I just got my bike up and wheeled crookedly off home. You see, just like that, you have an event that happens in your life. Your brain interprets that event in a certain way, and then your heart starts to feel about that interpretation a certain way, and now you are robbed of peace of mind because your heart doesn't feel well. And here's what's amazing about God's peace is that he understands that. His peace gets that we need to prioritize the things that are protected. So it's not just your mind, it's also your heart. You get priority protection. You're going to put the protection over the things that matter most, because those things that matter most affect everything else. The reason we're hungry for peace of mind is because it shapes everything afterward. And so Paul says, when you pray and you're grateful, God takes care of you fully. Peace of mind isn't something that you get from within yourself, and you can't have it without him. So here's what I'm going to encourage you to do this week, given all that we've talked about. Really, really simple. Practice gratitude. At the center of what Paul's been saying is this idea of thank him for what he's done. Practice gratitude. And the key word is practice. It's really hard to just turn it on and be grateful all of a sudden. We're going to have to do it in these consistent, maybe small doses. So here's what we're going to do, because I know what happens. I've been to enough church services. Somebody like me says, we're going to practice gratitude this week, and everybody's like, yeah, we are. And then you go home and you don't think about this ever again. So we're going to do something together right now. I want you to take out your cell phone. Everybody take it out. It's okay. We can use our phones in church. It's okay. I want you to take that out, and I want you to find your alarm app. Find the alarm app. If you have an iPhone, it looks like a little clock. If you have an Android phone, you should get an iPhone. Sorry, Apple humor. Find the alarm app, and if you can't find it, find a millennial or a Gen Zer sitting next to you. They'll probably get it real quick. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to set an alarm for sometime tomorrow and label that alarm, be grateful. Really simple, right? So you might set it for 10 a.m. You might set it for 2 p.m. If you're one of those people, you might set it for 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. I don't care when you set it for. Just label it, be grateful. And then when that alarm goes off, take 30 seconds and just tell God 3 things that you are grateful for in the last 24 hours. Just 3 things. God, I'm grateful for this. And it might be, I'm grateful for the amazing burger I had for lunch. It does not have to be deep. Like, don't overthink this, okay? You're just going to start practicing gratitude. Now, if you'd be so bold, I'd love it if you make that alarm a repeating alarm so that it went off every day at the same time. And if you want to get really crazy, set 3 different ones for 3 different times in the day. And if you come up with 3 things at each of those 3 alarms, that's 9 things you've expressed to God today that you're grateful for. And all of a sudden, you might get to bed at night different. Like maybe a little more at peace. Because you've spent more time thinking about the things he's already done than the things you're asking him to do. And here's what you'll start to feel. He's already won. We always talk about, like, we know the end of the story, right? Because the end of Revelation at the end of the Bible tells us God wins. And that is true, and that's great. But he's already won in your life. He's already won in mine. I can come up with 10 things where he's won today. And the more I remind myself of how many wins he has, the more confidence I have that he'll win again with this thing that I've brought to him. So practice gratitude. Now, I know that some of us are not iPhone people or Android people. We don't do the technology thing, and an alarm is a dirty word. We don't like it. So I just wanted to make sure we got this. So on your way out today, we're giving you a prize just for showing up. We're going to send you home with a ping pong ball. And on that ping pong ball is the Great Lakes logo. And you can decide you're going to actually play ping pong with it, or you can decide that you're just going to put it somewhere that you see often. And whenever you see that ping pong ball, you're just going to go, what's the thing I'm worried about? God doesn't want that for my life, so I'm going to give it to him and then trust that he'll give me his peace to get through this thing that I'm worried about. Because we all need reminders. It's why your phone tells you to turn right 5 times before the turn, because we need to be reminded. So everybody go home with a ping pong ball. And if you've got kids here and you're like, I got to go pick up my kid, we got a bucket of ping pong balls in the kids' wing for you, so that everybody goes home with one of those as a reminder that peace of mind is possible, just not where you think. Because God's peace can be your peace. Let me pray for you. God, you are good. You're really good. You're so good that you made us in a way that leans into who you want us to be. The notion that you want us to be more grateful, and you built us in a way that responds really positively to gratitude and gratefulness, where we experience more peace in that. And we recognize that it isn't even our peace. That's your peace, because we're just reciting all the things that you've done well. So thanks for loving us like that. Thanks for thinking of us like that. Thanks for Paul and him writing that down so that we could read it 2,000 years later. Thanks for being a God who's not absent in the midst of our worries, but with us, is on the other side of the table. You don't ask us to do any of this by ourselves. We're not playing any games alone. Thank you. Thank you for that. Help us to remember, whether that's by seeing a ping pong ball every once in a while or setting an alarm and having it go off on our phone. Help us to remember to be grateful so that we can experience your peace that guards our hearts and our minds. We love you so much. Amen.
Thanks for joining us here at Great Lakes Church. Again, my name is Carson, and I'm so glad that you chose to share some time with us this week. We hope something in this talk was meaningful to you, encouraging to you, and maybe even something worth writing down that you can go share with a friend. If you'd like to get involved, maybe join us at one of our physical locations in Southeast Wisconsin, or just be a part of our many other goings-on our social platforms or events in the area. Check out greatlakeschurch.com.